Alright, welcome to today's Studio Army Review. Today we're continuing our look at the Exodite army, but now we're switching to the independent clans of Lorien. Now, it was very easy, as I mentioned in the overview in the House Clans videos, about learning to split the crossbow and bow across the two codexes, Eldar and Dark Eldar. But I was really, when I first started, was only really able to figure out how to fit the witches and the Cabalites in. It was very difficult for me to figure out how to bring the rest of it in, except of course the vehicles. Well, before I actually dove into the Dark Eldar Codex in full, I kind of read through it and tried to figure how could I write a story to kind of go along with Lorien, because here I've already fully fleshed out all the house clans and figured out how they all fit in. How do I weave these in? So it took a little bit of doing, kind of playing around with it. But then I realized the Exodus wasn't just one. It didn't happen at just one point in time. It was actually stretched over many years, and in fact, the journeys themselves of all the Exodites, they took, I want to say centuries. Centuries prior to it, but decades and decades, at least. So the first ones to reach the main worlds, would have settled, but then many more would come later along. So I kind of had a concept of how I could weave these in. These wouldn't be the house clans; these would be additional clans that settled later. But again, weaving the story in. So I came up with this concept of already establishing the Dragon King, the hierarchical structure of the houses and clans of the house clans, and now how do you weave in the late arrivals? So in the first few centuries after the settlement of Lorien, other Eldar fleeing the horrors of the Eldar homeworld sought refuge, just as those who'd left during the Exodus. Unfortunately for many, their journeys were cut short by raiders and pirates. Many others survived their trips and one by one arrived at Lorien. Of all the clans to arrive, only 4 agreed to the Dragon King's terms that they swear fealty to the king or a noble house. These 4 clans were very different from each other, and as they had left long after the Exodus, they had begun walking a path of excess of one type or another. One was a wealthy clan whose passions leaned toward their beautiful luxuries and their creation. They brought with them all manners of vehicles and crafting technologies that those on Lorien would find valuable. Some individuals sought pleasure in chemicals, but their excesses had not yet become all-consuming. The one thing these 4 clans had in common was the depredations and suffering they experienced during their long journeys. They lost many of their number to attacks by human pirates and marauding orcs. These Eldar were forever scarred by the grief that was now part of their life. These clans have been convinced that their only hope of survival lay in the mastery of combat arts. These clans have a greater number of martially trained Eldar, much like their brethren on the craft world Baltan. Now, they exhibit an almost xenophobic mistrust of non-Eldar. The root of this belief, however, is not much more than an extreme sense of revenge on any non-Eldar that would threaten their lives or the planet they now call home. A prominent aspect of their passionate defense of Lorien is their belief in what they refer to as an aggressive defense. They seek to keep Lorien safe by launching preemptive strikes on any Xenos settlement utilizing the webway that they believe poses a threat. Many Imperial planets have suffered at the hands of these raids. These raids are not curtailed by the Dragon King, for his Royal Seer Council has determined that their actions are indeed improving the safety of their home. After the clans swore their oath of fealty to the Dragon King, they took a new clan name to mark the start of their new lives. Each departed to remote areas of Lorien where they could pursue their own lifestyles. The 4 clans that I have here are the Dark Knives, the Bloodsong, Firewings, and Stormblades. Now, seeing as they are Eldar or Dark Eldar and are battle brothers to the Eldar, it fits perfect. That means I can use these Exodites right along with all the other House Clan Exodites without any rule compromises. And the ability to use the webway allowed them to factor into a lot of my off-world combat. So most of the time I'm fighting with my Dark Eldar. Now that I have a Dark Eldar force, I was able to kind of leverage that aspect of aggressive defense. So in my mind, when I'm playing the Dark Eldar, I'm invading other worlds to reduce the threat to Lorien. When I'm playing the House clans, it could be anywhere, whatever the narrative takes me. It could be on Lorien, it could be in a nearby system or further away. Again, utilizing the webway that this Dark Eldar half of my Exodite army brings about. So that's where the stories came up. Now, once I figured that out, I started to look at each individual unit and kind of research it, kind of almost memorize their characteristics. And then that allowed me to, just as I read other things in the fluff and I looked at other stories, legends, and what have you in different areas, even our history, our legends and myths, I was able to spot little things that, oh, this would work in this case, and this would work in this. I could use this concept to build on the incubi. I could use this concept to flesh out the Cabalite warriors and the witches into their troop version and their elite version. I'd be able to utilize the homunculus, and make him a special type of royalty, in my case a duke, and with these certain abilities. It just took a while to gather all these concepts, and it was finally late in 2015 when some of these ideas dawned on me. And so I started with grabbing my first Raider kit and building on that. I had some Warhammer Elf Glade Guard from back in the 80s, late 80s. And those started as my first Cabalite warriors. Threw them in a Raider. Had a couple extra figures that were on the the Raider, and I converted them into HQs. I had the nucleus of genesis of my Dark Eldar force, and from there, it just kept growing. The models you see in front of you are just the current portion of what is built. I'm still finishing out a couple of the units painting-wise, but I have about as many, now maybe half again as many models in process for several other units that I'm going to be adding. So I've figured a way to interpret the Hellions, the homunculus, I've actually, for the grotesques and the racks. So all these other units, I've figured out how to bring them in. They're in process, so they're not on the table yet. As I do finish those, I will add them to the Studio Armor Review, and you'll see them. So look forward to seeing you guys in the next Studio Armor Review, where I'm going to start with looking at the HQ units and how I took the Exodites in the Independent clan and wove them into the Independent clans here as taking the Dark Eldar and weave them in to the Exodite HQs. So share, like, and subscribe. This again is just the introduction to my Independent clans or Dark Eldar codex. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Thanks for watching.